Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the 2022 City of Germantown Board of Mayor and Alderman Candidate Forum presented by the Leadership Germantown Alumni Association. It is so wonderful to see everyone here in person. I also want to welcome those who are joining us by streaming or perhaps watching by a delayed recording. It's wonderful to see you, those that are here, and we're very happy to be able to put the forum on this year. This is the first of two forums that we will be presenting this year. This, of course, is the Board of Mayor and Alderman Forum, and then next week, same time, same place. Next Thursday, we'll be having the forum for the Board of Education candidates. So mark your calendars. We'll be doing this again in a week. I'm Laura Meanwell. I serve as president of the Leadership Germantown Alumni Association. The association was created to provide leadership and volunteer opportunities for graduates of the Leadership Germantown program. And while a number of candidates and civil servants in our town are graduates of the program, Leadership Germantown Alumni Association is nonpartisan, non-political. We do not support any candidates locally, regionally, state, in any kind of formal manner. A little bit about the process of the forum. In an election year, and we've been doing this for a number of years now, every 2 years for the November elections, we present these forums. And used to be in the Pickering Center. I think the first one I went to in the early 2000s was in the Pickering Center. So we've graduated to better location by being here in the council chambers. But at the beginning of the year, we go ahead and reserve the chambers, we select the dates, and then as candidates pull their petitions and get those certified, we send letters of invitation to them, telling them where, when, what time, et cetera, so that they're informed, and then they get back to us and tell us if they're able to participate. While 3 positions on the Board of Mayor and Alderman are up for election this year, Mayor, Alderman position 1, and Alderman position 2, two of the positions are uncontested. We have invited those candidates to make a brief statement in lieu of the forum answering questions. Mayor Palazzolo could not be with us tonight, so I will be reading his, and very shortly Vice Mayor Marianne Gibson will be making her own statement, and then we will invite her to join us in the audience. It is with regret that I cannot attend nor participate in this evening's candidate forum. My full-time employment requires me to be on an out-of-town work assignment this week. As a 1996 graduate of Leadership Germantown, an active member of the Leadership Germantown Alumni Association, I want to personally thank both organizations for producing leaders for our city and providing programs like this forum to further engage our residents. In addition, I would like to thank all the volunteers, GMTV students, and Mr. Richard Ransom for making this candidate forum possible. If re-elected as your mayor, I pledge to continue to listen, learn, and lead as effectively as possible for our residents and community. Enjoy the forum. Please get out and vote this November and in every election. Thank you, Mayor Mike Palazzolo. I would like to also add my thanks to the City of Germantown for the use of the council chambers, the Leadership Germantown Alumni Association volunteers who are helping put this on this evening, GMC TV, our candidates who have so graciously given their time and commitment to this forum, and last but not least, our wonderful moderator, Mr. Richard Ransom. I know he's a familiar face to many of you. Richard, we, as we commonly do, will be making a donation to a nonprofit organization of your choice in your honor. We really appreciate your time and efforts in support of the city and our electoral process. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Richard. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Laura, very much. The mayor will be proud, I'm sure, of how you did reading a statement. Very nicely done. I am Richard Ransom with ABC 24. So glad to be here and be a part of this forum tonight. I've done several over the past many years, and I always enjoy doing it. It'll be fairly simple tonight because we only have one alderman position that's open, but we do want to let Vice Mayor Gibson give her statement, and then you're welcome to join the audience and watch the show. Go ahead.
Thank you, Richard, and thank you to LGAA for providing this forum where we get to know candidates on a deeper level. In the past 8 years, what I've learned is the importance of being prepared as you begin this journey as an alderman. And now as vice mayor, I've come to appreciate it even more as we work and do the important work on behalf of the citizens we serve. As many of you know, I am running unopposed in this election, which actually makes me probably the most relaxed person in the room. 8 years ago, I sent over 15,000 homes my personal cell phone number. It's because I wanted to hear from you. At the end of the day, we're neighbors, and I believe by working together, we make a difference every day in making sure our city is safe, our children have wonderful options in both public and private schools. Our quality of life is unmatched with 31 public parks within a half mile from every home. Our amazing community library, performing arts center, and the Grove at GPAC, right here in the heart of our city. I'm here to listen and to respond. I've pledged to see the campaign through to the election. And so as I walk in neighborhoods, I want to hear from you still. I want to hear the good, even the not so good. And I would say especially the not so good. That's what sets Germantown apart. We always seek to improve as we strive for excellence every day. That is our logo. That is our credo. Richard, one of the first questions that you asked me on a night, much like tonight, 8 years ago, you said, "Why are you running?" And the answer is the same now as it was back then. I love my neighbors. I love our schools, our parks, our exceptional staff, our houses of worship, and our first responders. And I love this city. I want to do everything possible to make sure that those that have come before me and those that will be here long after I'm gone are proud of the work that we have done together with thoughtful, deliberate, and reasoned, intentional leadership. I'm Marianne Gibson. I'm honored to be your alderman, and I ask for your vote on November 8th. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Marianne. We appreciate you. Get to the rules first for tonight that the candidates are aware of and have agreed to. There will be a maximum of 1 minute allotted for each response to each question. The timekeeper, who you see there, has 4 cards. There's a green, a yellow, an orange, and a red to warn the candidates when their time is, how rapidly it's disappearing. When it does hit red, I will ask the candidates to stop. I'm not going to be totally dictatorial about that, but, let them finish their thought. But we do need the comments to wrap up at that point. The moderator, Meade, reserves the right to ask follow-up questions depending on what is discussed. And I will interrupt a candidate if he or she determines the response is becoming incendiary or off-topic, which I don't expect to be an issue. And there will be a closing statement at the end of all of this where each candidate gets 90 seconds to kind of summarize why they're running and why you should vote for them. So that is the rules as we have them. I do have some brief biographical information. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this on each candidate that's here tonight. Dr. Manji Carr arrived in the United States in 2000 from India. She's lived in Germantown for more than 13 years now. She has quite an impressive resume. I think you blow us all out of the water on this one. Bachelor of Science, gold medal from the University of North Bengal, master's degree biochemistry, PhD in molecular biology from Punjab University. She's also been a researcher and professor at universities like Harvard and the University of Massachusetts, member of Leadership Germantown in 2019, and on it goes. Locally, administrative resident at the University of Tennessee Medical Center, owner and director of I-Level Learning Center in Germantown, and supervisor at Madonna Learning Center in Germantown. As I said, she's been here for more than 13 years. She has a husband and 2 children. So a round of applause for Dr. Carr, please. Scott Sanders is the incumbent in this race. He was elected in 2018, and November will mark the end of his first 4-year term as alderman for position 1. Scott has been a public servant all his adult life, having served as a police officer and U.S. Marshal until his retirement in 2017. He graduated from Arkansas State University in Jonesboro with a bachelor's degree in criminology. Sanders is a 2005 graduate of Leadership Germantown and has been a member of the Alumni Association for 13 years. Prior to being elected, Scott served on the Public Safety Education Commission for several years. Alderman Sanders is married to his wife Brenda and has 4 children and 1 granddaughter. Lucky you. I've got 1 grandson. It's nice to be a grandparent. Okay. So I've got lots of questions, and some number of them came from citizens. There was an email account that was opened up, you may have heard about it, where people were invited to submit questions. So I've gotten several through that account and looked for kind of themes that I might have noticed. Some were maybe a little too specific, but look for themes and what people are wanting to know. Some good ideas there. Some are my own questions, and we'll get started. We had a drawing as to who would get the first question first, and Dr. Carr is going to be the one who has her first shot at this. And unfortunately, it's not very original. Marianne kind of took my mojo away from me. I like to ask candidates first off, why are you running? What distinguishes you from your opponent when they now have a decision to make between the two of you?
Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Leadership Germantown Alumni Association, for hosting this forum. My name is Manjeet Kaur, and I'm a proud resident of Germantown for over 13 years. And our family is very grateful for the quality of life that we've had in Germantown. Over a decade, I've been serving on various boards, commissions, and nonprofit organizations with passion and commitment. I have accomplished several projects successfully. I've always stepped up and helped the community whenever in need. I'm action-oriented, team player with great organizational skills, meeting the needs of the community. I'm running for this position because I love my city, and I believe in the people of Germantown. I'm a candidate for the people. I want to make a bigger impact through my years of community service, vast leadership experience, knowledge, and advocacy for the areas of public safety, supporting our first responders, and funding them. Excellent education, quality of life, youth empowerment, crisis management, and leadership, and to support diversity in various forms. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Carr. Scott Sanders, your turn. Why are you running?
Thank you very much, Richard. I retired in 2017 to run for my first term of office because I like what Germantown has to offer its residents. I saw a little change back then at that time, and I wanted to ensure that we kept Germantown the quaint, nice Germantown that everyone moved here for. It's been a pleasure to serve this first 4 years. I've been, as you said, been a public servant all my adult life. I enjoy helping the residents navigate City Hall, get issues fixed when they need something done in the city. I spend a lot of time, since I'm retired, daily, interacting with our residents and trying to help them with problems they may have encountered. And just enjoy really meeting the people, working with the people, and continuing to make Germantown the great city that we are.
Very good. And as my follow-up, again, I'm not looking for any mudslinging here, but what distinguishes you from your opponent? If someone has a choice to make here between Dr. Carr and yourself, why should they choose you?
Well, Richard, I held leadership roles throughout my career with the U.S. Marshal Service. When I retired, I was a regional chief inspector supervising employees in 17 states in the middle part of our country, protecting national assets, running the budget of a little over $7 million. I've been an alderman now for 4 years. I believe I've got a lot of successful endeavors that I encountered. So I think I have the experience that's needed to continue working with the people and with the administration to further our efforts and continue to improve Germantown as the people know it.
Same question to you, Dr. Carr. It's always tough to run against an incumbent, so you have to distinguish yourself and how you feel you're a better choice.
Thank you. That's a good question. As I mentioned, over the last 10 years, ever since we moved to this city, I have been involved with different commissions. I have successfully accomplished projects, whether it's education. I serve on Education Commission. I serve on the Education Foundation. I bring funding resources, and I will continue to do so. Similarly, I serve as a vice chair on the Public Safety Education Commission. I brought funding resources to the Safety City, the program that we used to run for little kids. And I have taken the lead on several projects, whether it's the crisis management, whether it's pandemic, and I have supported diversity in various forms, and I will continue to do so. Especially, I wanted to mention when pandemic happened, I was the one who spent a lot of time at the vaccination site. Similarly, during the flooding time, I raised money for our Germantown residents. I love my city, so I will continue to do so without any, any hesitation. So that's what distinguishes me from my opponent, that I have accomplished in these 10 years, several projects, very
Okay.
successfully.
Very good, thank you. One thing I've noticed looking at both of your websites is you both mentioned infrastructure as being a very big part of your platform. And so I want you to just let that breathe a little bit. Tell me, where do you think Germantown needs the most help, most work when it comes to infrastructure? Where do you think there might be areas for improvement? You get the question first, Dr. Carr.
Yes. As Mark Twain said, continuous improvement is better than delayed perfection. And I definitely believe that we need to improve on certain areas. And also, I would really thank our Public Works Department. There are a lot of areas like the old Miller Farm ditch. There is improvement being going on the Duntreath Ridge, then English Meadows, and there is a work being done at the intersection of the Wolf River Boulevard and Farmington Boulevard. So a lot of those projects are taking place, and definitely those projects need to be taken care of, because these are the old infrastructure is getting, there is wear and tear. So with continuous efforts and with the strategic planning, we can definitely take that to the next step. And of course, we have got a lot of funding, like the FEMA has, I think we got 100% funding. And like I said, our Public Works Department, they're doing an awesome job. So thank you for that.
Okay. All right, Scott Sanders, same question to you. When it comes to infrastructure, you've been now on the Board of Aldermen for 4 years. Maybe you have some unique insight here where you'd like to see the funds reallocated or areas that could be improved.
Thank you, Richard. When it comes to infrastructure, that covers several things. It covers our roads, it covers our drainage, our legacy parks, Mlgw power supply. So many things are affected and involved in our infrastructure. I've been fighting for a few years to get back to paving our roads 10 miles at least a year. We've got some new innovative programs that we're going to be using that's going to stretch the dollars that we have. I advocated with the administration to use our entire $11 million of American Rescue Plan money to address drainage problems. We have old laterals that are crumbling, that were built 20, 30, 40 years ago, that need serious work. We're investing in our legacy parks now. Instead of all new things, we're putting in turf in the infield of some places. We're replacing piers in some of our ponds, fishing ponds, and we're going to try to improve some of the trails in our greenway.
In the 4 years since I was doing this last, or it's 2 years now, there have been a couple of tragedies that I think are related to infrastructure, particularly water drainage. There was the gentleman who was killed in Riverdale Park not that long ago, and then a couple of years ago there was the flooding at Oakley that damaged a significant number of homes. Do you think enough is being done to address that particular issue, the water drainage?
I do, Richard. We're in the last phase of our master drainage plan that Barge Solutions is under contract with the city. They're completing that drainage plan. That's going to give us a good idea of where we really need to focus our money and prioritize the problems we have. And you're correct, that lateral E, the Duntreath ditch, we're spending a lot of money there this year, and we did have over 140 homes that were flooded in that area along that lateral. We're doing a lot of work over in English Meadows, several $1 million right now. The work started a week or two ago. There's some drainage culverts that we're working with. We got grant money from the state, and we're in the final phase of replacing the last few culverts along Poplar Avenue. So we're working hard to address these problems. Years ago, when I first was elected and I talked to the city and the stormwater engineer, I was told we may need $70 million of funding to address all our drainage problems. But we're doing the best we can right now, and we're going to step it up with the master drainage plan, I believe.
Dr. Carr, are you satisfied with that? He enumerated a number of ways in which they're trying to work on the stormwater drainage specifically. Are you satisfied with that, or would you like to see more, and how?
I absolutely agree with what Mr. Sanders have said, and I'm also, concerned about the issues that we've had in the past, and we definitely need a strategic planning in that direction so that we can avoid all those flooding and the problems that we've had in the past. And for that reason, Stormwater Commission, I think, has been put in place, and that's incredible. So we can take care of the issues that we have had in the past with proper planning and with strategic vision. We can definitely take care of the issues of our infrastructure and the flooding and the drainage issues.
Trying to get all the questions in from citizens who submitted them while we're kind of talking about infrastructure. There's a lot of frustration about the traffic situation at Wolf River and Germantown Parkway. I got 2 or 3 emails on that, and there have been promises, I've sat here and heard them, that something was going to be done about improving at least the left turn situation coming from Germantown Parkway headed south, going on to Wolf River, which seems to get the most backed up. What are your thoughts about why that hasn't happened and what needs to be done and how soon?
Definitely, public safety and the traffic safety is very important. I just read one email a few days ago that all stop way has been implemented at Messick and McQuay Road, so which is a great thing. Again, I have faced this problem myself, the turn issue. When I go to Madonna Learning Center, there is no turn lane. And we really, that is a problem, So we have to take care of those. That's a safety issue. And I have witnessed a lot of accidents. So how can we avoid that? So definitely, again, the plan needs to be put in place because, again, I'm all for safety, all for public safety, and we need to take really steps in that direction to improve those. And how can we work with our departments, the concerned departments, where we can implement those things? Thank you.
Alderman Sanders, specifically, though, my question was about Germantown and Wolf River. What are your thoughts about that place where it seems to really bottleneck?
It really does, Richard. That's the busiest intersection in this part of the county. There, last I checked, they say there's about 60,000 cars that go through there a day. We started working on that in conjunction with TDOT years ago, several years ago. It's 100% funded through TDOT, so we're having some problems moving things along with the state. But we already have purchased all the right-of-way that is necessary for that construction to be done. We had put it out for bid. We're handling the bid process and the payments and getting reimbursed from the state. But when we put it out for bid, the project was over the bid. So we had to start over and go back to the state, tell them what we thought what the bids were, request more money from the state. We had to get the state to approve that and get back with us. So what has happened, some of the delays are caused by the Environmental Department of Environmental Conservation at the state. Those processes just take quite a bit of time, but I think we're on track to get that started before too long.
Okay, by the end of the next term, if you're so lucky?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I hope it's within my next term.
All right, so let's talk about public safety too, because you both had a lot about that on your web pages too, and obviously that's top of mind for everyone. What improvements do you think are needed for public safety, or are you pretty satisfied with the job Germantown Police in particular are doing? We know that whenever these rankings come out, Germantown's always in the top 1, 2, or 3 when it comes to safest cities in Tennessee. Your thoughts on that, Mr. Sanders?
I've told many people as I campaign and as I just speak with residents, public safety and our public education drives the economy here in Germantown. That's what brings people to Germantown. We do have one of the safest cities, or the safest city in West Tennessee and possibly all of the state. We have great law enforcement officers. My key We don't, as aldermen, control the day-to-day activities of the police department. That's for the police chief and the city administrator. But we do give them funding, and I'm of the opinion we need to fund them to the highest levels that we can to give them the tools and equipment that they need. We have given them salary increases and improved their benefits to attract the best and brightest and retain those employees. We just recently bought body-worn cameras for those officers. We've bought numerous vehicles, an entire new radio system for our police and fire to enhance our public safety here in Germantown.
Dr. Carr, your thoughts. Are you satisfied with public safety in Germantown, or do you see areas for improvement?
There are always areas for improvement. As I said, I'm a strong advocate for public safety, and I've worked in this direction from last 10 years. So as your alderman, I will immediately bring forward these public safety priorities. Add an additional police precinct over the next 4 years, a total of 8 commissioned officers, and a lieutenant to give more coverage and better response time. Add an additional 2 K9 units, as we've learned that this coverage protects our officers and successfully detains criminal. Add to a drone unit by acquiring 3 more drones, 1 for each shift, and a reserve drone. Drones are a critical tool for apprehension and protecting our residents and officers. Increase our police budget and resources for training and equipment grades. Add additional license plate reading cameras to further provide a geo-fence layer of protection around the city. Bring awareness to safety-related topics for residents in the form of seminars and workshops. I will immediately call for a workforce or a task force to research, create a text alert system for a city to provide critical information to a resident in times of emergency. Public safety is my #1 priority, and I will begin this work from the day one as your public safety alderman. Thank you.
Well, that's a big distinction here. That's quite a lot of things you plan to do there that would, just listening to what you're saying there, given the positions involved, would mean millions of dollars. How would you pay for it?
I will definitely work towards the funding resources. I've done my homework, and I have some thoughts and that I can definitely discuss. I will work towards bringing funding resources.
I want to get your reaction as a follow-up there to the different positions and other things that Dr. Carr was wanting to improve.
I believe the mayor has even made a comment that he would like to see in his next term an additional precinct. We are I believe we're at full staff of our officers, a little, maybe 108 or so officers that we currently have. Years ago, we might have worked, the night shift at the police department might have had 3 patrol officers that was on the street, but they don't work with less than 8 or 9 now. So we definitely increased the staffing. As far as the funding for the police department, we're 25.2% of our general fund revenues go to the police department. So we're funding them pretty well. The former deputy chief, Rodney Bright, that was here, I had some conversations with him over time, and he said they were funded pretty well. But I always offer to, champion additional equipment, personnel, and anything that the police department seems that tells us that they need. We have rarely, as a board of mayor and aldermen, have not ever, since I was elected, I guess, denied any of their requests for equipment or funding. So I believe the current board are extremely supportive of our public safety officers, and that goes for the fire department too.
Public safety being one of the distinguishing features about Germantown, as you both have mentioned. Another thing would be our schools, and there are several questions about that. A desire to hear from both of you, even though there's a school board and they handle their business separately. If the school district here was to require some extra funding in order to maintain that excellence, be it for a capital improvement of some sort or what have you, how far is too far as you're concerned if the wish list that comes to you is asking for millions and millions of dollars? We'll let you take that one first.
Thank you, Richard. That's a good question. I'm a huge supporter of our schools. As I said, that's one of the other things that drive our economy here. We give them maintenance of effort funding, but we also, on top of the money that we give them in the regular budget, we put capital improvement money in for the schools. We built that, the new school at Forest Hill through bonds, $27 million, I believe, plus we improved the roads over there. We've now are going to have secure entrances at every school. We've funded new roofs, a lot of capital improvements, and I'm happy to say that this year, based on a suggestion that I made to the current city administrator a year ago, our budget now has $500,000 each year for the next 5 years for the school board to use for capital improvements. We used to they used to have to come to us and kind of jump through hoops and justify why they needed things, and I didn't think we were doing them a great service by making them do it, so I thought we could put some direct funding out there, and then they can, if it's a $1 million project, save this year's money and put it with next year.
Let me cut you off there. All right, thank you, sir. Your thoughts about public education, specifically the funding for the school system, the school district here in Germantown, Dr. Carr.
Our public schools are really wonderful, and people move to Germantown because of our schools, and I believe they need to be fully funded. We are exceeding, we are really doing well in all areas, whether it's our Houston High School students, they have excellent ACT scores, 25.6. That is the highest ACT scores that they have. And as Mr. Sanders mentioned, definitely, maintenance efforts and the bonds and other things that add to our school's revenue. But we definitely have to find some creative ways. How can we increase more funding towards a school? And I was just listening to one of the seminars presented last week, Tennessee investment in student achievement. So there is a formula. How can we get funding resources from a city? How can we get funding resources from the county? And what are the resources that we get from federal? I don't have those numbers in front of me, but definitely efforts needs to be made that how can we work together so that our schools are fully funded. I know we have...
Your time is up, but thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, so another question that I've been asking about since I've been doing these forums is the 3G schools. Specific question from one voter. Will you support and pursue efforts to return Germantown elementary, middle, and high schools to the control of GMSD? Dr. Carr, you get this first.
Definitely, this is a very good question, and we would love to have our 3G schools back. Those are our heritage schools, and instead of having 6 schools, it sounds really very good if we say we have 9 public schools, right? So the efforts are being made in that direction. I know previous legislatures have tried, and we need those schools. It is our need because they fall in our city limits. So over the next, I would say, 10 to 15 years, we are going to have more homes and we're going to have more students. So definitely need those schools. So would love to have those schools back.
Mr. Sanders, they're working against a January 1 deadline imposed by the legislation that passed in Nashville regarding this. What are your thoughts of how it's developing and keeping the 3G schools, or getting the 3G schools, I should say?
And that's correct, Richard. The legislature did enact a law that will bring those schools back to GMSD control. They have till the first of the year to negotiate with our school board to decide, do they continue to operate them in our jurisdiction for a certain period of time, or do they not? Do we take those over or not? I haven't been involved in those negotiations. The school board is doing that at this time, I believe, and I will support whatever the school board decides needs to be done with those schools. But it's going to happen. We're going to get those buildings back unless there is a couple of loopholes. The county could sell those buildings and that property prior to January 1st, and that we have no say about that. That's totally up to the county schools. But if they don't, and the school board decides to enter into agreement with them to let them continue to run the schools, I'll fully support it.
Okay. Another question I get a lot of is apartments. Those evil apartments, condominiums, multifamily, zero-lot homes. What are your thoughts about those different categories, mixed-use development as well, and why or why not do you support, or do you make a distinction between multi-use like what Thornwood is and just a straight apartment complex, condominium? I mean, how do you view it and break it down? Mr. Sanders.
When I was running for election in my first term, there was an apartment moratorium put in place, and there was a large study completed by our staff, excellent report, 600 plus pages long. We changed some of the definitions in the ordinance of what is called multifamily and what is considered mixed use and what's standalone. In the appropriate places where we have the appropriate zoning, I support plans to develop those areas as long as they fit the definition, and it's not check the box of 2,500 square feet of retail and all the rest are apartments. I don't believe that was the intent. Recently, we turned down development on Winchester of 266 apartments. Some were called townhomes, but by the definitions that we have in our ordinance, they were strictly multifamily buildings and very little multi-use.
Okay, Dr. Carr, your thoughts?
As far as the apartment goes, I'm not for apartments because I feel that it puts strain on our infrastructure and it also leads to overcrowding of our schools. So we really have to think in terms of that direction.
As a follow-up, though, there's really no evidence to suggest it increases or contributes to overcrowding of the schools necessarily.
Again, it depends. You know, we are like landlocked. We don't have anywhere to grow. And so we really have to make decisions in that direction, very strategic decisions that how we can, whether, you know, what kind of development we're looking at. Right now, I know Thornwood is great. It is already built. But going forward, we really have to be very careful and plan accordingly. I know, as Mr. Sanders mentioned, that a moratorium has put in place, and we need to look at the guidelines. We have to look at the document, what it says and what it defines. So
Okay.
definitely have
As
to.
a follow-up to that, the Carrefour project is the next big one that's out there. Are you satisfied at how that's developing, what the plans are for that, and do you support it as it stands right now?
As long as, you know, it qualifies all the requirements, and definitely according to the Planning Commission and things like that. I have not looked into the plan, so I cannot say what exactly it has to be, you know.
What are your thoughts, Mr. Sanders, about Carrefour in particular?
The previous plans that were approved for the Cannon brothers that owned the property, I did not support that. The project to me was too dense, contained too many apartments. The property has since been sold. We just Monday we're going to be approving a development contract for phase 1A of a retail restaurant establishment on that property, but we have not seen what the new plans are for the Carrefour. I'm hoping that it won't be as dense. I'm looking forward to seeing those plans and hearing what their plans are, but they're diligently working on those and trying to decide how they're going to redevelop that property. And so without seeing the plans, it's a little difficult for me to give you a straight answer.
Okay, fair enough. Let's move on to the whole debate over whether MLGW should choose another power source than TVA for electricity. The suburbs recently all joined together, and mayors and boards of aldermen saying that they think the MLGW should stick with Tennessee Valley Authority. There's been some criticism of that, at least from some of the voters I heard from. They wondered why the city took such action without hearing any of the other bids that are out there. They're unhappy about this 20-year contract that just always never really expires unless you give them the 20 years notice, because it's just constantly renewing itself, and that the penalty if MLGW were to leave TVA is $20 million or $30 million a year times the 20 years, so it would cost almost a prohibitive amount for us to ever leave TVA is basically the conclusion there. Do you support the TVA and the efforts and the vote by the Board of Aldermen to stick with the TVA as the primary power source?
I do. I listened to online the last board meeting. The numbers initially, when Light, Gas, and Water was looking at alternate sources, appeared that MLGW would realize some savings, several millions of dollars. But when those numbers were updated for that board meeting, there was no savings at all switching to any other provider. Actually, a longer-term agreement with TVA saved light, gas, and water and the residents of Shelby County and Germantown millions of dollars a year by agreeing to a longer term. They got a bigger discount in the rate, and it also gives light, gas, and water an opportunity. They can put maybe some solar out and attach it to the TVA transmission lines and actually reap some benefits from that if they wanted to invest that way. But I am for them staying with TVA. I believe the money that it would cost to transfer to another provider is prohibitive. I'd rather see TVA or light, gas, and water use the savings to improve the infrastructure they have and repair some of these areas in Germantown that we see frequent power interruptions.
Dr. Carr, your thoughts about MLGW's relationship with TVA?
I think I'm fine with sticking to TVA right now, and because the vote has already been taken, it's already been decided. So do I have a choice? I don't think so. So, but again, having said that, I would like to make one point that we need a representation on the board of MLGW, because 30 to 35% of the people who the tax rate payers are outside of city of Memphis. So we definitely need a seat on the board of MLGW so we can have our say in decision-making process. Thank you.
Very good. And we're coming up on our time where we're ready to turn things over to your closing statements, candidates. You are given 90 seconds to do so, and we did a toss for that as well. Dr. Carr, you lost, so you get to go first. That's how it works. 90 seconds.
All right. As I mentioned, I've been serving my community with passion and commitment for many years. I have a proven track record of leadership even during the unprecedented times. As your next alderman, my vision is to move Germantown forward with focus on strong public safety, supporting our first responders and funding them, quality of education and increasing funding for school district, empowering our youth to take on more leadership roles, whether at community level or at government level. Germantown is a wonderful city with vast green parks, state-of-the-art facilities, shopping and dining. I would love to see Germantown prosper even more. I believe in improving our aging infrastructure, increasing job opportunities, and bringing funding resources, all in a sustainable manner. Our taxes must remain as low as possible. I believe in the community's capacity to be prepared for any crisis. During the time of flooding in Germantown and in COVID-19 crisis, I, alongside the city administration, was able to pull resources to be effectively manage the situation, and I will continue to do so. One of my goals as alderman is to help support diversity in its various forms. Through my years of community service, vast experience, knowledge, and qualifications, I can provide leadership and a clear vision for the future of our city. I am Manjeet Kaur, running for Germantown Alderman Position 1. I humbly, honorably, and respectfully ask for your vote in November election. Thank you, Richard, for the opportunity, and thank you, Leadership Germantown Alumni Association, for hosting this forum, and thank you, all of you, for attending and for your time. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Dr. Carr. Scott Sanders, your turn, your closing statement.
Thank you. Thank you, Leadership Germantown Alumni Association. Thank you, Richard, for moderating, and thank you to the residents who are present and those who are watching on TV. I want to thank those who had the confidence in me to elect me to the first term 4 years ago. I've thoroughly enjoyed my service to you and ask for your vote to return me to office this November. I'm proud to list a few of my accomplishments on your behalf over the last 4 years. I've made public safety a priority with police and fire salary increases, approval of a new fire truck, ambulances, and police vehicles. My recommendations have strengthened our beer board licensing requirements. I voted to approve a new water tower, and my efforts helped create a maintenance contract with the company to maintain and repair our water wells, effectively avoiding another Jackson, Mississippi. I supported our schools with funding for the HMS expansion, ADA improvements, and I was able to get $500,000 allocated to the district of each of the next 5 years for capital improvements. I've encouraged the city to allocate all of its American Rescue Plan money, nearly $11 million, to fix our aging drainage infrastructure. And finally, I voted no to the development of 266 new apartments on Winchester. I'm proud of these accomplishments, and not once during my first term did we have to raise your property tax. But there's more work that I would like to do. I have the right experience, and I am the right choice. I'm asking for your vote November 8th to re-elect Scott Sanders, Alderman, Position 1. Thank you.
And in fact, thank you, Scott. I believe early voting starts in just 2 or 3 weeks, right? October 19th, I think?
Yes, sir.
So that is something to keep in mind. Voters also, we kind of take for granted if you're, a lot of folks who have just moved here are not aware of this, but it's important to know because I had a neighbor ask me who moved here from out of state that the Position 1 is for the entire city of Germantown. It is not split up geographically, so everybody in Germantown can take part in voting for Position 1. So with that, I want to thank our candidates, first of all, for their contribution, for coming here tonight, Marianne Gibson for being here earlier, and for the mayor's statement, and thank you for inviting me to come here tonight. Appreciate it very much. I hope you'll be watching tonight at 10. All right, thanks.
And with that, we're adjourned. Thank you so much.